if you're one of these firms, you're constantly looking at, especially if, you're an asset manager or broker dealer, like you want to retain AUM on platform and you want to find ways to accelerate AUM growth on platform. And I think organic growth historically within these circles have been limited in the way that they defined it as almost share of wallet. It's like, all right, managed to unmanaged asset. How do we get more? How do we maximize that? And that's a customer success function. It is growth, but it's not net new, and it's not net new AUM, not net new clients or AUM. And so I'm trying to bring a solution that programmatically and systematically helps enterprises and modern RIAs build these repeatable, predictable lead generation operating systems within their firms.
Hey there, it's Mike Langford. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. On this episode, Ian Karnell returns to the show to pull back the curtain on his new company, VastAdvisor, which promises to dramatically improve organic growth for financial advisors and the wealth management enterprises that serve them. Now, as you'll hear or see if you're watching the show, Ian demonstrates later in the episode how VastAdvisor delivers on this lofty promise by leveraging AI to make it easy for firms to define who they are, who they serve, and what their goals are as an organization. Then VastAdvisor does the heavy lifting of designing digital ads, recommending where to run them, and it even runs the ad copy through a compliance review so that you and your team can move with speed and confidence. This is the type of stuff that is going to dramatically change the industry. We've been hearing about slow organic growth for a long time now. Get ready to start hearing about hyper growth firms. This is really exciting stuff. Now, before we get to the conversation with Ian, please do make sure you take a moment to subscribe to the Modern Financial Advisor podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, the YouTubes, or wherever you like to get your podcast jam on. And if you have a question or suggestion for a topic or a guest for the show, hit me up. I'm basically at Mike Langford everywhere on the internet, or you can shoot us an email, podcast@finsermarketing.com. Okay, let's jump into the conversation with Ian Karnell. Well, Ian Karnell, so wonderful to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you, man. This is awesome stuff. I'm so excited. For those of you watching at home, we worked really hard to get this video working. It's not easy to look this great, right? So we just so you know.
I had to upgrade my dial-up, I think, right?
Right? It's just so fun. It's so funny. Like my dad used to joke about like the cars. When he'd have car problems or whatever. He's like, we should have stayed with the horse. He's like, it's fascinating how frustrating like a modern technology thing can be. You know what I mean? You're like, it works all the time, except right now when I need it to work the right way.
Oh my God. Thank you for your patience. But I do feel like home back on your podcast. It's great to be back.
It was great. It's funny. And for those of you who have like not seen Ian and myself together on screen before or together in person, we've known each other for quite some time, like pretty much our entire professional lives. So, we can go like crazy, like anybody. So just because we've known each other for so long. So this is gonna be good stuff. I'm really excited about this. Well, I gotta tell you, you've been working on something and it's launched like last year or so. Yeah, so you just launched something really extra cool now, and I've been excited to have you on the show to like kind of, well, in my opinion, unveil it to the world, even though you've been out there shopping it around the entire universe. So let's get to it, man. I'm super excited. So today we're going to be exploring the ushering in of a new digital marketing age for modern financial advisors. But I thought it might be a little fun way to start this off by like laying a foundation for the industry, like understanding like kind of the current state of digital marketing for financial advisors. So folks in the audience really appreciate like how significant the stuff that you're working on, right? So for the most part, this industry, and I think everybody will nod along, it's been salesperson driven, right? There's a reason why we have financial advisors, right? You used to be called brokers, agents out there selling product. And I think that's because products in generally were kind of confusing. Like the average person doesn't know what stocks, bonds, mutual funds are and all that type of stuff. But I thought maybe I can have you kind of give us an overview of like how digital marketing is being used for financial advisors as you see it, right? As somebody who's been a marketing professional for your whole career. what's the state of digital marketing like before we dive into Vast Assembly and the stuff that you're working on?
Well, yeah, let's talk about the state of digital marketing for advisors, right? I think you're right on. I mean, historically, advisors grew by like hand-to-hand combat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's prospecting, phones, seminars, events. I think marketing has been an afterthought just in general in the sector. I mean, the sector certainly is a laggard. Advisors using online for like essentially brochures, right? I mean, and even kind of first generation websites, 2.0, they were updating their websites, doing a lot more SEO and social, but still significantly relying on sales. I mean, I think when you look at the industry, this is an industry built by baby boomers, built leveraging traditional kind of growth tactics. And so it's been defined by referral marketing. It's been defined by event marketing to the extent that you can even include marketing in that. It's how they networked and grew their practice. And I think today still a majority of RIAs don't even have marketing expertise as a full-time resource within the firm. I mean, the bigger firms do, the high towers, I'm sure, the Carsons of the world.
Yeah.
But I think, if you're under 100 million in AUM, you certainly don't, or it's a contractor at best. But we're at this inflection point where I think other industries, it's the same inflection point that other industries have hit with respect to adopting programmatic advertising. Advisors, I think now are just catching up. Yeah. I think AI is the enabling technology here as we look ahead to Web 3.0.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's so interesting you say, I agree with the hand-to-hand combat thing. I'm glad you used that term because it's so true. It's like, if you talk to somebody who started their career in the 80s or the 90s, they will tell you, man, the number of phone calls they used to make, right? The number of meetings they had to go to show up at the kitchen table meetings or the seminars and all that type of stuff. It's like, that's how the business is built. I mean, just like you see in the movies, you know what I mean? Like, here's your book.
Well, I still talk to advisors that share those stories today. They still talk about going door to door today, getting started.
And you know what's so interesting? Like, I've had so many conversations recently, and in fact, Dan Zitting from Nitrogen, formerly Riskalyze, I just had him on the show not too long ago, and he was talking about like, listen, the nature of sales is changing for this industry, right? And he's like, it's not just the advisors; it's like the nature of how people buy has changed, like how they go about, like how can you get access to me as a consumer has just changed, right? From like, I'm not likely going to be picking up the phone. I'm not likely coming to your seminar in many cases, right? So you're going to have to reach me new, right? So kind of like long-winded way of getting, it's like leads matter, right? For financial advisors, right? Like they have to get some form of lead in order to do sales. In the old days, it was cold calling. That was the lead. Here's a list of phone numbers. Call that phone number, right? People picked up the phone, right? Exactly, because they didn't have caller ID and just have automatic blocking of like my phone. Just like, I don't even, like, if you're calling me and you're not in my phone, you go automatically to voicemail.
Well, that's the irony, right? In a smartphone today, the least used application is the phone.
I'm not answering this. I'm actually always surprised when I see a human being walking around, like actually talking on their phone, like holding it up, even though this is still the universal symbol for call me. I cannot do it. Like, unless you call me and I have no other option, I will not answer the phone and hold it up here. I'll be like, hold on, let me put my AirPods in because I can't do it.
That's right.
But it was like, so advisors are still getting leads, right? But you pointed out it, and this is going to lead us into our, I did that on purpose, not really, but this is going to lead us into our conversation here. How are advisors currently getting leads digitally now? And kind of, what's broken with those traditional models? Like what's not working to maximize effectiveness?
Right. So everything that we just talked about with respect to traditional tactics still are predominant in this channel, right? They're still very reliant on referral, network, event marketing. They're still taking groups of prospects out for steak dinners and that sort of thing. And that is both expensive and time intensive, right? We know this. It takes nearly a year to convert a client. The average CAC there, the customer acquisition cost fully loaded is around $3,000 to $5,000. And so time and cost intensive. I think in addition to that, today we see lead brokers playing an increasingly important role, but also very expensive. The smart assets, the Zoes of the world, the wiser advisors, they figured out pretty early on that this was a laggard industry. There wasn't a lot of competition in this industry of individuals like leveraging sophisticated digital marketing tactics through online ad platforms, which are the most efficient way to hit target audiences at scale and drive them to funnel pages where, the lead brokers would use quiz forms, quote unquote, qualify these as prospective investors seeking financial advisors. And they realized pretty quickly, because there's no competition, they can get these leads at $30, $40, $50 CPLs, cost per lead. And like the smart assets are like, well, then we can turn around and sell each of these leads for $500. It's a 10x premium on the lead, and they'll sell it 5 different times. So they're getting $2,500 for the same lead that they paid $50 for. And, it's the advisors have had mixed experiences with that. I mean, the lead brokers have served, I think, a very important role in filling the gap, I think, in modern digital marketing, from a modern digital marketing perspective, because they weren't, the industry just wasn't there yet. And so when you look, I just spoke with a very large RIA, one of the bigger ones, and they were telling me that they spend millions of dollars a year with smart asset, millions of dollars a year. Now, obviously they're spending millions because it's generating conversions for them. And we know the lifetime customer value of a high net worth or ultra high net worth prospective investor more than covers that cost, right? But the question is, can you do it more cost effectively? And what do you trade by going through a lead broker versus building out your own programmatic lead gen operating system? Well, the biggest thing you trade is having any signal intelligence as to where that lead originated from. Smart asset, Zoe, they're never going to tell you their tactics because that's their secret sauce. That's how they defend their moat. And I think that's one of the bigger opportunities is how do firms, as we move to Web 3.0, learn from this and begin to leverage these same tactics, but own it, like leverage that process internally. And we know from our Truelytics days, right? It was a practice management tool, measuring the intrinsic value of a practice, that firms that did this, that firms that were building scalable, repeatable, predictable lead gen practices were valued at 200% more than firms that didn't do this. And so the business case is there, and it's a powerful one, I think, for firms to begin to consider.
It's so interesting. I always struggle with like the best way to articulate this without it sounding insulting, because it's not meant to be this. Like these people, advisors, especially an advisor who has a mature business, right, who has reached escape velocity and has built something. They have built something amazing, right? It first of all, it's built on trust, right? And they're in high quality service. They're providing a lot of value to the clients. They busted their butt, right? For years. Again, doing the hand-to-hand combat, they built this thing. But at some point in time, you reach that certain thing, you get a little, hey, a couple of clients here, growth isn't as urgent right now, but you also lose the muscle, I think, right? And then you go out and again, I mentioned Dan Zitting there from Nitrogen was saying, hey, the world's changed a little bit too, right? The way you get your leads has changed, or the way you can connect with a prospect has changed. So what do I do, right? So now they're like out there, and they're, like I said, the natural inclination just to buy leads. Like, oh, somebody else has done this. If you could just tell me who to call, I would gladly call them. You know what I mean? I just kind of like seems to make sense, right? But AI is changing everything, right? And we're gonna be diving deep into that. So let's get into it. Obviously a lot of hype around AI, and I think for many wealthy management executives and financial advisors in the audience, there's a feeling, I think, maybe of a little overwhelm, like this stuff is coming fast. I'm sure some people are feeling a little a little sense of skepticism, like, yeah, I've seen robo-advisors and before, and I'll believe it when I see it. But I got to tell you, having walked through the demo of your new solution, VastAdvisor Enterprise, marketing and lead generation in this area, where advisors are going to be seeing a lot of really tangible impact coming to their business, I assure you.
Well, and not just advisors, networks. I think any large network, because I mean, there's not a part of the wealth industry that isn't focused and isn't talking about organic growth. It is one of the hottest topics in our industry right now, right? It is one of the priority growth pillars. Every single asset manager I've spoken with, custodian I've spoken with, broker dealer I've spoken with, there's not one whose practice management team isn't looking at organic growth as one of the top priorities going into next year. And how do they move the needle there, leveraging some of the newer technologies that are hitting the market, including for themselves, right? So how do they harness it and embrace it for their own?
That's a really good point. So we talked about the steak dinners and so forth for advisors to go get clients. I've been at that steak dinner you've been a guest speaker for broker dealers to attract new advisors. So like they exist, like the broker dealers are doing the same thing. They're looking to attract advisors who are hopefully already have well-established businesses and are growing and so forth. And that for a long time has been their way of growing. Like they're not necessarily, a lot of the independent broker dealers are not necessarily growing their own, if you will, like recruiting fresh out of school people, giving them the playbook and nurturing them, right?
They're in acquisition mode. Full on. Well, because of all of the demographic trends, we understand the great wealth transfer that's going on. You know, everyone's been buying up firms and in the space. We have aggregators playing a huge role there as well. And I think if you're a firm looking to sell or hitch your wagon to either an aggregator or any one of these enterprises, one of the first questions you're going to be asking is are they growth oriented, and how are they oriented? How do they help drive accelerated organic growth for my firm? And how are they differentiated? And if you're one of these firms, you're constantly looking at, especially if, you know, you're an asset manager or broker dealer, like you want to retain AUM on platform and you want to find ways to accelerate AUM growth on platform. And I think organic growth historically within these circles have been limited in the way that they defined it as almost share of wallet. It's like, all right, assets, like managed to unmanaged asset. How do we get more? How do we maximize that? And that's a customer success function. That's a wallet. It is growth, but it's not net new, and it's not net new AUM, not net new clients or AUM. And so I'm trying to solve, well, for all of it, but I really want to bring a solution that programmatically and systematically helps enterprises and modern RIAs build these repeatable, predictable lead generation operating systems within their firms. So
you're right. Like, so, you know, I feel like I say it on this show all the time, is that organic growth has been pretty anemic, and everybody in the industry talks about it. Something in the neighborhood of like 75% of all growth has been market-driven growth. Something ridiculously high, like 40% of advisors are in net redemption, like, you know, like negative growth. Like they're, and that's just because, you know, half of the advisors are over 60, right? If the average age is 60, half are over 60, right? And then, so their clients are probably over 60 and they're probably starting to get into retirement years and consumption. So it's math. It just works that way. But what you're saying though is so true, that like getting advisors to start organically growing, having a programmatic way to bring on new clients, bring on new assets that just aren't already there, like just share of wallet experience. So we do, again, want to get great share of wallet. We want to, you know, stop. You definitely don't want to have a leaky bucket. You want to have a scenario where clients are leaving. So retention's important, but top line growth, great stuff. So let's tee up the conversation more specifically about VastAdvisor with maybe a step back of like, what was it? Because you were sharing your vision the other day. We were doing a prep call for this, and you said to me, you know, I decided to go all in on AI. Like, so,
yeah.
And as somebody who's known you, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, for your entire professional career, I'm always fascinated when somebody I know, like, okay, I've made like this conviction decision. Cool. What was it that you saw? Because I think for a lot of people, like, wow, ChatGPT, isn't this kind of neat? Oh, isn't it kind of cool? I can make these images and so forth, right? These kind of fun little goofy things, right? Meme stuff. Because I think that is for like the vast majority of, oh, listen, I don't have to craft an email anymore. I can just have ChatGPT do it. Like, people were doing that type of stuff. They're excited that they don't have to have writer's block anymore, right? But what did you see? Because you saw something deeper, in my opinion, and it's obviously led to what you've built. But I think it's kind of great to have that background.
Yeah, I mean, the epiphany happened at InvestNet. So as you know, right, InvestNet acquired our last wealth tech startup, Trulytics, and I'm running a strategy for our data and analytics division. And one of the things Bill Krager had me leading was the actually coming up with a lead gen solution within InvestNet. And so I was managing and leading a team from AWS, a large team internally at InvestNet. And we were looking at some of these other platforms. We had interviewed some of these other platforms, and GPT just got released. And I was using GPT to actually help with some of this analysis. And then I ended up, I said, hey, write me an algorithm that matched a particular advisor with a particular lead. And what I saw it do next was just mind blowing to me. It opened up a window and just started writing code. And I shared it with our internal data team, and they were blown away. I mean, it was just, AI has been around for a while. Machine learning has been around for a while, but to have it democratize in a way where it was readily accessible and it understood, it wasn't just returning a search result, it was actually creating for you, was like, that was the big aha, that was the epiphany. Now, what I have seen it do since is even more mind blowing. And, what I've seen with multimodal models, what I've seen with GPT-5 now, what I know is happening with Agentic, we're building within Agentic, meaning AI that has agency, AI that has the ability to infer, to problem solve, and to essentially to automatically kind of generate results, understanding the specific task at hand without prompting it to do that, right? And so that's really the reason that we've gone all in, because there's not going to be, I think, there won't be a bigger impact. In fact, I would go so far as to argue this may be this time that we're in now, one of the last moments that we as humans have the ability to really kind of influence the market sector as humans. I think a lot of that, it's a bold statement to make, but when you forecast, like when you look at the past 2 years and see where we've come, and you forecast where we're going to be 5 to 10 years from now, it's going to be a radically different marketplace, and there's going to be radically different competition. And I think you need to get your paddles in the water now.
I couldn't agree more. It's the basic stuff you're talking about, agentic AI, right? So an AI that can actually interact as kind of in a human-like manner, right? And conduct things for you, infer what you're meaning, go do a little research on your behalf, come back to you and talk. But the thing that's been stunning to me is the conversational nature of things. Like, so the fact that I can interact, you think about this business, right? It's built on relationships, right? Well, we're going to have tools that are going to help you facilitate relationships, right? And at some point in time, again, act as an agent on your behalf with your clients. But they're also able to do things that you at Vast Assembly and with the VastAdvisor tool are doing. Bring accessibility and scalability to things that just weren't there before. You talked about democratizing this stuff, right? And I love the fact you use that word. It's one of my favorite words, because like we've been doing that in this industry for a while, right? We bring stuff that used to be white glove, family office only access type stuff, and suddenly it's now available to the mass affluent, right? And in terms of separate managed accounts, it's a great example of something that has been really democratized down. Well, now it's like firms that would have had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year with a marketing agency to do certain things are now about to have the ability to do these things within reasonable reach.
In a very sophisticated way. So you and I met when I launched my very first startup, which was one of the first generation digital agencies in Boston. State Street was our very first Fortune 500. This is when David Spino was the CEO, Debbie Nallins was the chief marketing officer, Ron Logue was just launching Spiders at SSGA, right? And that's how we met at State Street. And to kind of fast forward to where we are now, 30 plus years later, with AI, I'm looking to impact what has been an industry, the agency industry, leveraging AI and the tools that we built within VastAdvisor Enterprise to either, obviously agencies can leverage our tools as well. And I hope they do, because I still think they play a very important role. But I think that we have the ability to bring these tools en masse to an entire market sector that has been a laggard to embracing it in a very sophisticated way, but with a user interface that makes it really simple to be able to configure your firm, to be able to configure your compliance workflows, to be able to identify who your ideal client profiles are with very rich demographic, psychographic, geographic insights based on all the amazing publicly available data, research data that's available in these large language models, and bring that to the surface and leverage that insight to guide your channel mix and marketing strategy, your audience targeting strategy, and your ROAS and budget strategy, your return on ad spend strategy.
I was about to ask you, I was like, ROAS. Well, for the audience, not for me, but it's like, like, we're about to get into, I want to get into like the details of how this works. And I was going to use one of my favorite phrases that I never served in the military, but this is a military phrase and I just love it. Break it down Barney style, right? So I'm going to have you break, and it's basically like, hey, listen, break it down so that's like a preschooler who's watching Barney could understand this. So there's no ability for confusion, right? But I like it because it's like, hey, it's
right.
It's like the old, like, explain it to me like I'm a first grader type of thing. But like, the reason why I want to do that, and is, the average firm, even the largest, if you just go look, the largest broker dealers, look at the size of their marketing team or practice management team. Really tiny, really tiny. Most RIAs don't have a marketing team. Now, large RIAs may have one person, two people that are in charge of marketing / practice management. Like they kind of wear both hats, right? Yep. So this is an industry. I'm glad you mentioned that you're going to be working with agencies too, because a lot of them will just defer to their agency. They'll be like, hey, you got to talk to so-and-so over at XYZ PR firm that we work with. They do our marketing. and so they're gatekept, if you want to call it. So you can't even get to them really, because they don't have the bandwidth. So I cut you off a little bit at the ROAS stuff, but let's start with like a break it down Barney style of how VastAdvisor Enterprise works in practice for a firm. Like what exactly, if you had to describe it, kind of elevator pitch style, like what is it that you're doing, the technology doing so that we're making it easier for firms to bring new business in?
Well, I mean, we're unlocking scalable growth, right, through AI-powered advertising for advisors. That's kind of, in one sentence, simply what we're doing. And so when an advisor signs up for VastAdvisor Enterprise, and perhaps what we can do is we can do an overlay with the demo, like actually, and because I'd love to, you are one of the first to unveil this to the public, right? And I'm really excited about this because the reception that we've gotten over the last 2 weeks of doing the road show out with all the big players has been nothing but overwhelming. And so I think we've designed the right tool to solve the right problem at the right time. And so let's walk through a day in the life of an RIA setting up VastAdvisor Enterprise, right? So they set up their account, and one of the first things that they're asked to do is to enter the URL of their RIA. And they do that. And we have this onboarding agent that sits in the background. We have about 6 agentic agents that power the application on the back end. We use Abacus as our AI layer. And the reason we use Abacus is because it has a routing LLM that gives us access to every single major large language model on the planet, every single one of them. And we want to be LLM agnostic, and that's one of the ways to do it. And then we want to build our fine-tuned models on top of that. And so we have agents that have the ability through our workflows to use any large language model and pull the right information based on the specific task at hand. So this onboarding agent takes the URL and does a couple of things. First, it scans the RIA's website. It then looks at the form ADV. It does a Google search and looks at its LinkedIn page and begins to configure that firm's settings within the application. two really important things need to come out of that. One is, what is the firm fee model? That's really, really important. And we have a number of items within our settings of the application to make sure that we get that right. And they can add their specific fee model. They can add a fee tier or optional fee or a fee range or optional fee tiers, because that's leveraged for our return on ad spend model in the ad builder. That's really important, so that when our AI is making a recommendation on what's the optimal spend to go target that lead, you want to know that every dollar that you put into the campaign is going to generate over $1 in net revenue to your firm in a certain time frame. So that's really important. The next thing it does is it infers what are your top 3 ideal client profiles, and it can pull that information based off of the content on your website. Some RIAs are very specific about who they target. Or it can infer it based on the product or service offerings that you've articulated through all of your online content. And it gives the ability for the firm to also create custom audiences as well. And so that's where the audience profiles get built. And so that's the next big thing that it does. We obviously have configurations. We integrate with all the major CRMs, the compliance platforms, the analytic platforms, be it Google and Adobe, and then every single major ad platform. So once all of that is done, you want to then start to kind of target an audience to start driving leads. And so we have an entire audience building section to the application that informs your audience essentially selection. Who do you want to go after? Why do you want to go after that specific audience? How targetable are they? How competitive is that audience? How many other RIAs are competing against that specific audience? And then you go into our ad builder, and it's a 5-step ad builder process that makes it very streamlined to pick the audience. Our AI will take your unique value proposition that we hold into our settings and modify it slightly to be specific to the audience that you're targeting. So how do you make your UVP even more relevant to that audience? And what's the service offering specific to that audience based on what that audience needs? Not just that you're selling everything in a bundle, but what's going to resonate with that audience. And then your channel mix, our AI will suggest which platforms you should and it scores each platform, and it will give you updated market data and insights that support the scoring for why these platforms are best to target that specific audience, make a budget recommendation, and then you get into your ad builder. With one click, it generates all of the ad creative and copy against all of these different ad platforms. And most importantly as well, it does a compliance review. I couldn't just solve for building out an AI-powered ad tool. I had to solve for the compliance piece as well, because that's been the other gating factor for, I think, why this industry has been a laggard in embracing digital. Because one, digital moves fast, and it's I think when you have to go and submit every single thing through a compliance process that takes weeks, months, and it's expensive because you're talking about teams of attorneys reviewing things, fully loaded, it will blow up your customer acquisition cost. And so it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense if you have to kind of painstakingly apply that process to a digital marketing tactics. Our AI compliance agent is completely informed of the SEC and FINRA guidelines and monitors all Gen AI copy created and any human inputted copy into these ad campaigns, and immediately does a compliance check, gives you a compliance score, flags compliant issues, makes recommendations to resolve those compliance issues, or you can click manually resolve and it will go through your compliance workflow. And that's a powerful tool, very, very powerful tool. And we have IQ dashboards. We have a campaign IQ dashboard, which allows you to track all of the insights for all of the live campaigns or paused campaigns or completed campaigns that you've run, and produces really amazing insights as to the efficacy of those campaigns, how your audiences compare, and through those campaigns and generating leads and the cost per lead for each of those audiences. We have a compliance IQ dashboard that's tracking all of the compliance issues that our compliance agent is catching and looking at trend data. We have compliance testing tools. And very importantly, we have compliance reporting capabilities. So daily compliance reports, audit trails for each specific campaign. So time, date, stamp, audit, a compliance event, what a description of the event and was it resolved or not, or what the status was. And then export capabilities for regulatory submission, which is because we know where the SEC and FINRA are headed with Gen AI, just any sort of Gen AI copy that is leveraged in any sort of outgoing marketing material. So, and then we have Firm IQ, which is really all of your firm's growth insights. So this is net new clients, net new AUM, net new revenue, all of your funnel metrics attributed to the specific campaigns that you're running on our platform. This is where the rubber hits the road, right? This is what gives you the insight as to what is actually accelerating your growth and how you're benchmarking your growth against other industry benchmarks, right? So we can tell you if you're performing better or you're trailing those benchmarks and give you signal intelligence as to what's going on. And then lastly, there's so much more than that. But the last thing I want to mention is that we built an agentic framework in the advanced settings section of the application that allows any firm or enterprise to toggle on or off any of these agents at any point in time, set sensitivity thresholds or activation triggers. We have an autopilot mode that you can turn on, but we give you additional guardrails essentially that allows you to put AI on autopilot, but still ask it for approvals, like for budget changes and things like that. So you're in complete command and control of it. Anyway, so that's a day in the life of an RIA.
No, and I'm glad you walked through like all the elements of it, because anybody who's ever entered this industry, there's a reason why this industry has a great moat, right? It is complex. It's not particularly easy to come up to speed. Once somebody comes in here, they're six shooters ready to rock and roll. And I'm going to help you with marketing, financial advisors. And then they run into this thing called compliance. They're like, wait a minute, what's this thing called compliance? Well, listen, you can't just say whatever the heck you want. Like not only are there rules of the road of what you're allowed to say and advertise. Oh, somebody else has to review and approve it and say it's good to go. Or at least say they've seen it and they've archived it and they've got it for good record keeping and all that type of stuff. That blows a lot of people out of the water. And to your point, it can be expensive, not only because it's expensive to have a compliance team, it's time consuming, right? It takes forever. Like I want to put my ads out there in the world. I want to start generating business.
Right.
One of the things that made so I love the compliance piece, but one of the things that made I'm sure you do, and the firms are going to love it, right?
I think it could be a standalone.
And it may end up being, right? You may end up actually having, because there are tools out there that serve wealth management firms on the compliance side. And I've seen a couple of other interesting use cases of AI with compliance. And I think that you're just going to get better and better, because I think people will be shocked at how compliance teams work. Like a lot of them still work with an email thing. Like everything that goes out into social media actually gets kind of screen captured, if you will, and then fired into this email thing. Because email was the first digital marketing channel to be used. And so every firm has like an email review and approval and all. It's crazy. Every email that an advisor sends is archived. It's nuts. Even there's stuff about fantasy football is being archived and put. But the thing that I love is, we've talked about like how this could radically change and improve the business, but I hate being like overly hyperbolic, but I'm going to go ahead and lean into it. It has the ability to like radically transform advisor practices into businesses, right? We used to talk about that with Trulinux all the time.
I don't think that's hyperbolic at all. I mean, you were talking about an industry that's been like a lifestyle industry that's going through a transition where increasingly it is being treated more as a professional business versus a lifestyle. I don't think that's hyperbolic at all.
You led off with the first thing we're going to do is have you put your URL in. We're going to pull in some information from your business. And it's fun. If you go through the thing, you can add your color scheme and so forth, your logo and all that kind of, to customize some things. That's great. But another thing, you say, hey, put your fee model in here. Well, why is that important? How are you going to make money from these customers we deliver to, these leads that we deliver to you, right? How much is one of those people worth if they successfully convert? That's how a real business says. When you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or Google or whatever, you see an ad, somebody has done an analysis and says, you know what? If I sell, we'll use Yeti because I have my handy dandy Yeti cup here.
And they're Austin based.
So here we go. Local company, local kids making drinking cups.
Yeti, we want Yeti coolers
sponsorship on this deal, right? So, if I'm going to sell a Yeti and I'm going to serve an ad and put it in front of Ian, I've done some analysis like, okay, so people who fit some certain demos or whatever, I'm going to serve up an ad for Yeti. And I know that every one of these I sell, it's like $30, $35, whatever the heck this is.
That's right.
Great. Well, my ad can't cost me more than $35 per Yeti sold unless I'm very much at the beginning of something and has whatever. It's, I've got to know what it costs, like what I'm going to get value wise on this thing. What's my profit margin or whatever. So I love the fact you're asking that. Like, and what type of fee? Are you a fee only, or are you a AUM fee, or are you just a subscription model? Like, put your model in here. I love that because, and then we're talking about how much are you looking to spend on advertising? Because that's also your capacity. Not only how much money do you have to spend, you're effectively telling me in this equation, how many leads are you willing to deal with here, right? Like what's your capacity? Because you might be sitting there there might be a business where it's like, listen, we just hired a new advisor, brought a new junior advisor in. He or she has the capacity to take on an extra 50 clients, right? This is awesome. You okay?
Sorry. I'm just so happy you brought this up because I want to get into with you the mid and back office AI automations that are going, I think, address capacity.
So one of the reasons why advisors stop growing is capacity, right? They're like, hey, listen, I've got 100, 150, whatever their number is based on their model and their stuff. They get to a spot where like, I just don't have the bandwidth to bring on any more clients. And then you've heard the advice given to advisors over the years. We'll take some of your less valuable, you do your 80-20 rule on your book, take some of your lower value clients, give it to the junior advisor so he or she can grow their business. Well, in that equation, it's like, well, I want the junior advisor to be up. I want them at full capacity quick too, right? I don't want any of our advisors operating at like 60% capacity. I want to like, let's go. But you could actually kind of put that in the model, right? You say, hey, listen, how many leads do you want? And we know how many leads lead to the clients, right? The funnel.
Or how much AUM do you want, or net revenue? I mean, we've introduced a number of different ways to essentially dial in what it is, what's the key metric that you want to impact. I mean, some advisors may ultimately say, no, I want to optimize on return on ad spend. And that may not be optimizing the number of leads or AUM, but it's going to be the most effective, profitable lead that you're going to generate. And so we have a scale, right? So as you scale up and down your daily budget, you see it's dynamic. You see the ROAS multiple dynamically change. You see the net number of estimated leads for the campaign change dynamically. The net number of estimated meetings and net new clients, projected AUM and net revenue dynamically change, right? Utilizing all benchmark data specific to wealth, published from all of these ad platforms, including the benchmark data that we have. We've been in business for a year. We've had a direct to advisor solution in market for a year. We have, a little bit less than a year, but we have over 30 pretty big RIAs leveraging the first version of the tool today. We have great case studies, great performance data. We've been able to validate a lot of things and check out a lot of product market fit boxes off. We have great case studies that we're about to publish across the board, and it's exciting. Yeah. So like I think we present a conservative benchmark model that we're measuring against. And with the fine tuning of the model at the enterprise level and at the RIA level, what's really exciting about the tool is that this is probably one of the first generation of software tools that actually improve the more it's utilized. The more campaigns you run, the more audiences that you build, the more you leverage it, the better it will perform, meaning that you'll drive more efficient acquisitions of leads at lower and lower costs and at improved timeframes, right? So instead of 12 months, 6 months, hopefully better than 6 months over time. That's amazing, right? It's a tool that continues to grow in value the more you utilize it based on the 22 model.
I want to highlight that. It's really important for people in the audience to understand that like AI is different than other software tools. So historically, the more you use the software tool, the better you got at it. Like think about Excel. The first time you sat down on a blank spreadsheet and you had to learn how to use Excel, probably overwhelmed. Probably do some training, get used to like all that, and then you went out and did some tutorials and learned how to become a spreadsheet jockey. And you're awesome at it now, right? That was you learning how to do that. AI is like, once you give it, the more information you get it, the more information we add to that language model, if you will, the more agentic instruction we get it and power. It learns like, hey, we ran these ads. These ads produced results. Were these results you were looking for? Yes, they were the results. Oh, great. Let's do more of that, right? Let's get even better at it. We've learned a faster, more efficient, more cost-effective way of doing this, right?
That's right. That's right. Or imagine a network having network intelligence across all of the RIAs running hundreds or thousands of campaigns to different audiences and all of the insights that generate and how that fine tunes the model. I truly believe like software is commoditized today, especially with AI. The future value of enterprises are going to be in the fine tuned models that are informed by private large data sets that are generated through platforms like mine that will help to inform, in my case, organic growth. There are mid-office and back-office use cases that are already in play, leveraging fine-tuned models that will also play a role in all of this. It's an exciting time for the industry. I think 5 years from now, we're going to be looking at a very different industry than what we know today.
100%. Like pour a little extra gas on that. One of the things we've been telling advisors to do for years, right, is that, there's riches and niches. You've heard all the little things that people say, get niche, get focused on a certain type of customer, right? Serve them. The more you know about the customer, the better you can serve them. The easier it is for referrals, because if I'm serving software executives, those are my typical client. They know other software executives. I can say, here's how we serve. We know their stock option plans and this and that. Well, the same is true when it comes to your outbound marketing, your advertising, right? We get more focused. We know what platforms are on. We know whether they're using. You showed there's a really great stuff. If you get the chance to get the demo on VastAdvisor, absolutely take it. We're going to link that up in the show notes. One of the things that's really interesting is as you put in the niches that the target customer you're looking for, you will see that it'll recommend where to advertise. And I think we made one of the things we talked about, like certain people, I think it was, you said women ages.
Transition. Women in financial transition.
Of a certain age demo, spend a really large time on Facebook, on Meta properties. So Facebook.
Age 50
so,
to 60.
Right. So they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, and maybe, Threads, the newest, whatever that is. Great stuff to know. So if you were serving women, right, who are in transition, as we were talking about, like whether that's divorce or, retirement, whatever.
The single.
Yeah. Like that stuff, man, like if knowing where those people are versus like, tech professionals might be hanging out in other places, right? So Greg's LinkedIn, right? Exactly. So it's really smart stuff. Like this is it's not just about like, what does the ad look like? How much is the ad going to cost? Like where are the eyeballs? Where should we be putting this information?
Why? Like we provide for each channel recommendation that market data and insights card. We provide the sourcing of the information, and it doesn't just come from the platform. It can come from Gartner. It can come from Pew Research. It can come from Boston Consulting Group that have all studied these audiences on these platforms. And these are current trend data, right? That we want to inform the channel mix and messaging strategy by, where that's how we've architected the AI and the workflows around that. And so we want to surface those insights so that at any point, anybody asks, well, wait a minute, why is Meta scoring 4.8 out of 5 in the channel mix strategy over a Google search or whatever that could be more high intent? Well, we mentioned it, right? We'll give their behavioral data around and demographic data around their usage of the platform, but also like insights around women's support forms in Meta have grown 60% year over year. It's exploding. Like that's a trend that, I don't think is readily apparent or aware by most, right? And that ads targeting that specific demo in Meta have a higher 25% higher engagement rate. And so that's the sort of insight that you want to have to guide where you spend your money and how you target the audience and what audience to target to begin with. Right.
And this is stuff that when you explain it to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Right. We just talk about like, hey, you should have niche-based marketing. Like, hey, if I come to your website and I see that you serve women in transition or you serve tech executives, and you're using that type of language and the look and feel is there, like, oh, okay, like I'm in the right spot. I have arrived at a place that serves people like me, right? Great. I should call you versus just saying we work with people who have wealth and help them manage their wealth and tax advantage stuff. Like that's what like most advisor like websites look like.
Well, you're touching on, I would argue, one of the most important elements of why having a strategy is so powerful, because it informs how creative and copy gets generated, and that drives resonance.
Sure.
And resonance is an important word, right? And so it's about timeliness, relatability, and a multitude of other factors that ultimately you want to have a high degree of resonance. So when somebody sees or reads something that you published through an ad platform, you want them to feel like it's speaking to them, that it understands their pain points. It understands what's keeping them up at night. It understands their values and motivators. That's going to resonate. And unfortunately, we did a study of like the top 10 RIA websites. And unfortunately, there were like one or two outliers, but everyone like really doesn't differentiate themselves well in this industry. And everyone's targeting the same broad segment of high net worth, ultra high net worth. And what AI and what these tools are going to force RAs to do, and networks, is to begin to do what other companies have been doing for a long time, really understand who you're targeting, understands how that translates into your market positioning, how you articulate your unique value proposition, and how you activate your target audiences through content and creative that will resonate very specifically to those audiences. That's how you do lead gen, programmatically using digital channels. That's the best. That's 100%. The framework.
So I know we don't have much time left to each other, but I want to close it out with the discussion of next generation advisors and next gen clients, frankly, because every firm out there is trying to attract the next wave of advisors. We need more young talent in here. We obviously want the next generation of clients as well. And you got to meet them when they're at, right? We've been talking about that for a long time. You got to be tech forward. You got to showing us that you're modern. Now, one of the things I shared with you, and I got to go find where I found the stat, but like it's a FINRA stat, and I've shared it on the show before, is that one of the things that'll blow your mind is that 85% of new financial advisors, right, wash out. They quit by the end of year 4, right? So they don't make it past year 4. But when you're out talking to top producers in the industry and you ask them like, hey, Ian, how many years are you in the industry where you felt like you're going to make it? In my experience, they always say 5 years. They always say it was year 5 when they felt like, I got this. I'm finally, and that's probably true in lots of professions, right? You finally feel like you're a pro after 5 years. But like,
or Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000
that's exactly right. Something like that. Like you've got the reps, you're bulletproof, however you want to describe your situation. And as I think about firms that are looking to grow, right, man, like this technology, if I was coming into a new profession and I have my choices of going to work in tech, I'm a really smart dude. I can go work and take your pick of what other professions are out there. And I come to a firm and they're like, oh, we're using some of the latest AI stuff to help our young advisors grow their business. So we're going to help you go from 0 to going 100 miles an hour within the next 2 years. Let me show you how this works.
Right.
Powerful stuff, right?
Well, if I'm that advisor and I'm seeing that the firm's stack is oriented towards that, there's nothing but for me to conclude that this firm is oriented in a way that instead of me grinding for 5 years and hopefully making it, they're going to help me gain momentum in the first 12 to 24 months and give me the biggest head start against my peers who are not joining this firm or who don't have access to the stack. That's a competitive advantage. That's a moat for them, right? And for the firm.
For sure.
So
I mean, look, there are wirehouses out there that hire thousands of new financial advisors every year because they know the washout rate is so high. So think about like how expensive it is to hire thousands of human beings every year, knowing that most of them won't be here soon. If you could solve for that problem using this type of tool, it's amazing stuff. This is, I would hope so, right? So, all right. So VastAssembly.ai is the company name. VastAdvisor. Holy company name. VastAdvisor.ai is a place to go for this stuff. There's an enterprise grade. We've been talking a lot about the enterprise stuff here. As you said, there's a directory like an RIA stuff here as well. You're active on LinkedIn. I see you all the time. Am I straight? What else should people know before we let them go? How should they follow up? We're gonna have that link for the demo, right? So if somebody's interested,
we're gonna have the link for the demo. We're going to. I think we're gonna get them snapshots of the application. So they'll get a sneak peek into that, and then our current clients using the first version of the software are going to be the first wave invited into the software. We have multiple enterprises joining our beta partner program today. We are going to be rolling out. There's a queue, right? Sure. So, I mean, to get in the queue, we invite people to schedule the demo that will get them in the queue. So that as we start rolling the application out for the general market to begin to subscribe to, which will be early Q1 of next year, then they'll be on that list and they'll get the invite to do that. We're being very thoughtful in the way that we roll this thing out. And so I think the way to get in that queue is to get that demo, get a sneak peek as to what we're working on, and or if you're an RIA, you can engage us now, and you'll be one of the first to be invited up.
Well, so, Ian, this has been fantastic. So great to have you on the show. I really feel honored to be able to kind of unveil some stuff to the world. Obviously, you're invited back anytime. I'll showcase some more stuff. Thanks, buddy. Thank you very much for listening to and or watching this episode of the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. It's always fantastic to have you with us. Huge props to my man, Ian Karnell, for coming on the show again to really give us the honor here of showcasing VastAdvisor to the world for the first time ever, right? This is the first real big public unveiling. So I'm super excited about that and honestly honored. As you heard during the show, Ian and I go way back. So this is really cool stuff. As I mentioned at the top of the show, if you have a question or a suggestion, please feel free to send that in. Love to hear from you. And let's see. Oh, yeah. Be nice to each other. We'll see you next time on the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. See ya. Bye.